Their names whispered in fear, these notorious serial killers were the embodiment of evil, leaving a trail of darkness and despair in their wake. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Top 10 Countdown. Today, we have a chilling topic to discuss: 10 notorious serial killers who did not get the death sentence. Throughout history, these individuals terrorized communities, leaving a trail of horror and tragedy in their wake. So, let's dive into our list and explore the twisted tales of these infamous killers who managed to escape the ultimate punishment. Starting off at number 10, we have the HILLSIDE Stranglers. Operating in the late 1970s, Kenneth Bianchi and Angelo Buono Jr. carried out a series of heinous crimes in the Los Angeles area. They abducted, raped, and murdered young women, primarily sex workers. With a total of 10 known victims, their reign of terror was eventually brought to an end. However, instead of receiving the death sentence, Bianchi struck a deal and testified against Buono. Bianchi was sentenced to life imprisonment, while Buono received life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Angelo Buono died from a heart attack in 2002, while Kenneth Bianchi is currently incarcerated in Washington State Penitentiary. Coming in at number 9 is Richard Cottingham, known as the Torso Killer, was an American serial killer active in the 1970s and 1980s. He targeted women he met in bars and hotels, torturing and dismembering his victims. While the exact number of his victims is uncertain, it is believed to be at least 6. Cottingham was arrested in 1980 after attempting to murder a prostitute. He was convicted on multiple counts and received a sentence of 200 years to life in prison, avoiding the death penalty. He is still alive and serving his sentence in a New Jersey correctional facility. Next up, at number 8, we have Coral Eugene Watts, known as the Sunday Morning Slasher, was an American serial killer in the 1980s. He targeted women in Texas and Michigan, confessing to killing 13 and potentially more. Despite his crimes, he avoided the death penalty through a plea bargain. Watts received life sentences in Michigan and Texas. He died in 2007 at 53 from prostate cancer while serving his life sentence in prison. Moving on to number 7, we encounter Robert Hansen, also known as the Butcher Baker, was an American serial killer who operated in Anchorage, Alaska, during the 1970s and 1980s. He targeted young women, mainly strippers and prostitutes, and abducted them, subjecting them to torture and assault before releasing them or killing them. He was convicted in 1984 on multiple charges, but instead of the death penalty, he received a sentence of 461 years plus life in prison without parole. Hansen died in 2014 from natural causes while serving his sentence. Our countdown continues with number 6. David Berkowitz, also known as the Son of Sam, or the .44 caliber killer, was an American serial killer who terrorized New York City from 1976 to 1977. He killed 6 people and wounded 7 others. Berkowitz claimed to be following orders from a demonic entity named Sam. He was arrested in 1977, confessed to the crimes, and received 6 consecutive life terms in prison instead of the death penalty. David Berkowitz is still alive, serving his sentence. Breaking into the top 5, we have the original Night Stalker, now known as Joseph James DeAngelo, also known as the Golden State Killer, was an American serial killer and rapist active during the 1970s and 1980s. He committed at least 13 murders, 50 sexual assaults, and over 100 burglaries. DeAngelo served as a police officer before his crimes came to light. He was arrested in 2018 after advancements in DNA technology. In 2020, he pled guilty to multiple charges, including 13 counts of first-degree murder. To avoid the death penalty, he received multiple life sentences without parole. He is now serving 26 life sentences in a California prison. Entering the top half of our list, we arrive at number 4. Gary Ridgway, known as the Green River Killer, was a serial killer in the Pacific Northwest in the 1980s and 1990s. He targeted young women, mainly sex workers and runaways, and confessed to murdering at least 48 victims. Ridgway avoided the death penalty by cooperating with authorities and providing information on the victims' locations. He received multiple life sentences without parole and is still alive in prison today in Washington State. At number 3, we have Dennis Rader, also known as the BTK Killer, was an American serial killer active in Wichita, Kansas, during the 1970s and 1990s. He targeted and killed 10 people, mostly women, using a bind, torture, kill method. Rader's crimes remained unsolved for years until he was arrested in 2004 after sending incriminating evidence to the police. In 2005, he pleaded guilty to the murders and received 10 consecutive life sentences without parole. Dennis Rader is still serving his sentence. Now, we approach the top 2, and at number 2, we have Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee cannibal, was an American serial killer and sex offender who targeted young men from 1978 to 1991. He lured victims to his apartment, where he sexually assaulted, murdered, and dismembered them, engaging in necrophilia and cannibalism. Dahmer confessed to killing 17 men and received 16 life sentences in prison instead of the death penalty. He was killed by another inmate in November 1994 while serving his sentence at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Wisconsin. Finally, we've reached the top spot on our countdown. Number 1. Charles Manson was an infamous cult leader and criminal who orchestrated a series of murders in the late 1960s. He formed a cult called the Manson family, and in August 1969, his followers carried out brutal killings, including the murder of actress Sharon Tate and 4 others. Manson and 4 of his followers were sentenced to death, but had their sentences commuted to life imprisonment when the death penalty was abolished in California. Manson died in prison on November 19, 2017, at the age of 83 from natural causes. And there you have it, folks. The top 10 notorious serial killers who managed to evade the death sentence. Their crimes left an indelible mark on history, reminding us of the horrors that can be perpetrated by individuals consumed by darkness. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Join us next time for another gripping countdown on Top 10 Countdown. Stay curious and stay safe.